I may be an awakening Musa, and this is my inventory, and I am 301 AP, and we still did good. What up? How you guys doing? I am Crimson, and today we're going to be going over Underground Gyfin. The grind spot is solid, as you can make an average of at least 700 mil plus an hour. It is somewhat drop dependent with the accessories and the amount of cappers you get, but still really good. For your gear requirements, the minimum you're going to want to come here is 289 and 383 DP. For efficient gear, I would actually recommend 301 AP and 391 DP. And don't be fooled by those requirements, because you can still get tapped really easy, as these mobs do a lot of damage. Especially at night, if that flamen hits you with the... Ooh, you're done, you're done. Now for the buffs will be the most efficient here. Special damage is king at this spot, as you'll be getting a lot of back attacks. Exquisite Cron is an easy choice. Don't forget your church buffs, AP, DP, along with your tent. AP furniture to increase grind speed is definitely a must, especially if you get that lower end of requirements. Then of course your Vels or Perla Star if you want more survivability. Everyone always forgets about the Perla Star, that's why I mention it in a lot of my videos, it can be really handy. Now for your elixirs. When you first come here, I actually do not recommend a full elixir rotation, as this spot is more about just dodging damage. Kind of a little bit like Trolls and Olins. If you learn the animations, you can get away with quite a bit. Frenzy would be a solid idea just to start, so you can have a little bit more sustain and survivability when you're first grinding here. Then when you get more used to this spot, graduate to a Giants. For your perfumes, you can use a Calx to be a little bit more tanky. And if you want to do a little bit more damage, have a little bit more health when you're more experienced, the Courage is definitely a good option. For your crystals, we're just going to focus damage, as there isn't many CC things to worry about. Your standard Jinir Bond Vipers with 2 Elucus for accuracy, your 2 Corrupted, and your 2 Dark Fang, along with 4 if you would like for Ancient Magical Power, or I do 2 Ancient Magical Power and 2 Rebellious because I like risky. If you have a Garmoth in your Awakening, also do Glorious Akrods. And I almost forgot, not gonna lie, about Artifacts and Lightstones. If you want to be defensive for DR, go with Rigid Shield, which is 4 set Iron Walls. And for evasion, go with Blur. More damage, if you can't maintain 100% crit rate, go with Death Blow. If you can, go with Vicious Shadows. First, before we start the grind, I'm going to explain the mobs and the mechanics. Flamen, purple. Crusher, red. Guard, blue. These are the mobs at this area and the colors associated with them for the mechanics. First, the Flamen, the most squishy of the 3, but also the most deadly, as it does the most damage. It only has 2 main animations, one that projects out and other that is a circle. You will see these as large red markers on the ground, so do be careful. Next, the Crusher, which has 3 animations. He will either do a 180 and start to smash the ground, or he will do a huge swing that'll go back and forth 2 times. Smash is easy to avoid, just simply get behind them, and as for the swings, if you go with the swing and follow behind him, you can avoid damage. He does have another animation. After every 3, he will do another smash, but it'll be with a large AoE. If you're behind him, you should be perfectly fine. That will apply actually to all 3 of these mobs. Stay behind them as much as you can and you will be really safe. Do keep in mind the Crusher is actually the most tanky. Definitely recommend saving your E buffs and Z buffs for when you have to encounter it. For the last one, the Guard. She's actually the simplest mob with damage and tankiness between both the Flamen and the Crusher. She has 2 main animations. One is a swing that she will always do from her sword side, and the other is every 3 animations she will do a large AoE. I know this seems like common sense, but stay out of the red glowy circle thing on the ground. It's a lot of damage. Just don't be in there unless you're, well, yeah, just don't do it. Now for the 2 rare mobs that actually spawn at Gyfins, the Decimator and the Butcher. When the Decimator spawns, it'll just be a big one of the little guys you see running around. Make sure to kill him with the other mobs that you're doing at the moment. He'll run over to you and be aggro, no worries, so you can just DPS him at the same time you're doing one of the bigger mobs. On his defeat, he will actually spawn a lot more of the little guys for you to get more trash loot, so it's really good to get those if you can. Unfortunately, they are RNG. This can definitely play in as somewhat of a factor in order for you to get more trash loot per hour. The other is the Butcher. When you defeat any of the 3 main mobs, they give you a buff to help you kill the next one in rotation. I'll explain all this during the grind portion of the video. Speaking of video, if you guys are enjoying this in-depth guide so far, don't forget to subscribe. Appreciate you. Hell yeah. The Butcher will always spawn towards the middle of your grind area. You can't kill any of the other statues during this. The Butcher will be your only concern. Once defeated, it will give you a God tier buff that allows you to annihilate a lot of mobs really fast. Now we can get to the actual grind and all the efficiencies and trash and things, but before we do, make sure your effect opacity is at least around 50%. We want to do this at first to make it easier to distinguish each mob and their associated colors. Once you get used to the spot, then you can lower the effect opacity if you'd like. If you have some performance issues, make sure to check out my optimization guide. And of course, you know there is a best rotation, which I'm showing you right now in the background. It's been running. And the main reason why this one is actually the best is because it is the most condensed. This makes it so the little mobs will aggro to you a lot easier, therefore result in more trash per hour. Now to give you a little preview of the rotation, there will always be one of each mob in one of the 3 corners. You'll defeat each of these mobs one at a time, and when you defeat them, they will RNG spawn at a different location. Your class has AoE skills, be hella careful, never wake up 2 at a time or you'll get this nice maelstrom kind of warning and they get hella DP and they do a lot of damage, and just don't do it, okay? Now this is where colors are massively going to come into play. I highly recommend starting with purple, and then it will go red, and then blue. No matter where you decide to start in the rotation, this will always be the order. So if you start at red, it'll go to blue next, and vice versa. If you start at blue, it'll go to purple. Flamen is the most squishy, so to start fast, we do the Flamen first. Purple, the purple color. There are 3 ways to keep this in mind to help it easier for you to grind the rotation. Upon defeating one of the mobs, it actually tells you which buff you have, and it gives you a buff on your buff bar. The second is actually your character. If you look at your character with effects on, you can see that your character has a certain glow, which will tell you which mob to go to. And the third method, if you've been here for quite a while, memory. You've memorized the order of the mobs. You don't have to worry about the colors or anything anymore. You just know I go this. But sometimes when we go on autopilot, you know, it's nice to know those colors still. Like you don't even have to look at the rainbow and you already know where the pot of gold is. Imagine, give me that power. Holy shit. I don't even know what that means. You'll notice that your first mob when beginning the rotation will be the most tanky, as you don't have any buffs yet, but as soon as you get it, the other mobs will become a lot easier to grind. When you get a buff from the mob you've defeated, go to that correlating color, which will always be in the same order. There will be a couple of seconds delay till the mob spawns so you can hit them. Even though your buffs are timed, they give you ample amount in order to defeat the mob, no worries. Staying behind the mobs at all times is your top priority. This will maximize the damage you do to the mob and lessen the damage that you take. Though when you do get that decimator spawn, you get a bunch of little guys on you, do be careful. If enough build up on you, they can hurt a little bit. Your main concern though will always be the animation of the big guy you're fighting. They have a DP buff on spawn, so make sure you're doing mostly pre-buff skills to start to do big damage. After a couple of seconds, you'll notice they'll start to animate. Except the Flamen, sometimes he stands there like a goof and just does nothing, and you can just damage it for free, and I don't know. But the relative damage timing is the same. Once they start to animate, you can then do more damage. You want to aim to have the mob destroyed within 1 full animation. This will test your knowledge of your class and maybe discover a few things you didn't before by studying more of the kit. The reason I say this is it may be wise to come up with a Gyfin specific skill rotation. I did for my Awakening Musa actually with this exact same gear. Make sure to go check that out in my shorts. On my shorts, like wearing shorts, you know, the shorts on the yes. As a beginner coming to Gyfin, try to make sure to have him dead before the end of the second animation. Build your way up to doing it by the first animation with a little bit of practice. That being said, classes with high burst potential tend to do the best here at Gyfin. The faster you output damage, the faster they go into the ground. Now when the big decimator spawns, it's usually not too much of an issue, but the butcher on the other hand, let's talk about that for a second. When he spawns, you want to do as much damage to him as possible because he is relatively tanky, a little bit more than the red mob. But before you give him the final blow, make sure to put him on top of your Flamen mob, at least for when you're first starting to grind this area. When you kill the butcher, it will actually spawn all of the mobs in at once and you will have a huge fiesta to deal with. Since the Flamen, the purple mob, does the most damage, it'd be best to put it on top of him so that way when he spawns, you can kill him first. The Flamen is special during this enrage type phase and he will actually do another skill, like a stomping AoE, and it goes through like 3/4 of the rotation, so that's why you definitely want to take him out first. Now to go over a bit of a summary of what we learned, because it was quite a bit for this one spot. Each of the mobs, the Flamen, the Crusher, and the Gaurd have buffs associated with them. And the colors, don't forget the colors. When defeating the mobs, use what? You will use one of the corresponding buffs you've got to kill that corresponding mob. You do this, it is no longer a circle, now it's a triangle. Good job, PA, we love the spot. A decimator will periodically spawn to give you more little guys to give you more trash. When the butcher spawns, make sure to get him really low and then take him towards the Flamen. That way you can get the buff and kill him first. Oh, one thing I actually forgot to mention about that. The butcher will allow you to have that buff for 1 rotation because they are timed. So therefore go to the Crusher next. That way you can take out the tankier guy faster and go about your rotation even smoother. You want to aim for 12k plus trash on a yellow loot scroll or roughly around 8k on a blue loot scroll. This should be applicable across most classes unless you're a meta abuser. Then you can get hella more trash. Another quick tip for those of you who actually stayed this long in the video, hell yeah, thank you so much. Before moving on to kill your next mob, actually stand in the middle pillar for a couple extra seconds. This way the mobs will aggro to you more to draw them to your next mob. This will result in faster aggro for them and a little bit more trash. Also, you guys may have seen something going around about prolonging the butcher buff. After you've killed your butcher and all the surrounding mobs, go to the blue guard. Then you will pull them to one of the other mobs on the opposite side, so that way you won't be able to get the AoE from the buff that they omit. Kill the guard near one of the other mobs and you will still have it. Make sure you are careful with the timing so that way you can still use it to get that last buff that you need. And that is it for this guide on Underground Gyfins. Hell yeah. We learned about each mob, their animations, and efficient ways to grind the area. Do let me know if you guys like all the elixirs, buffs, and artifacts and things at the beginning of the video. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I hope that this helped you out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as you're looking at the things on the channel. All the things. See all you nerds in the next video. Crimson out.